So you found the house, you are ready to make an offer, and then your agent tells you something about earnest money. You need to send money today. Suddenly, you've got questions. How much? Where does it go? What happens if something goes wrong? Do I get the money back? Most buyers don't fully understand earnest money until they're already under contract, which is the wrong time to be learning about earnest money. This is one of those topics that sounds straightforward, but it does have some important nuances, especially in our state, that can genuinely affect your financial outcome as a buyer. So let's start at the very beginning. First off, what is earnest money? Earnest money is also called a good faith deposit. It's simply money that you put down when a seller accepts your offer on a home. It signals to the buyer that you're serious about this purchase. You're not just making an offer and shopping around. You're actually committing real dollars to back up your commitment. And here's the key thing to understand from day one. Earnest money does not go to the seller. It goes into an escrow account, which is a neutral holding account, and it's managed by a third party. The money sits there, it's protected until the transaction either, number one, falls apart, or hopefully, number two, it closes. Now, if the deal closes successfully, the earnest money is simply applied toward the down payment or the closing cost that were due at the closing table. This is not an additional cost to you. It's simply part of the money that you were already planning to bring to the transaction. It's just you brought it in a little bit early. Now, Georgia does not have a fixed legal requirement for the amount of earnest money. So the amount is negotiated between the buyer and seller, but there are some standard ranges that you should know. For most Georgia real estate transactions, earnest money usually falls between 1% and 3% of the purchase price. Now, sometimes they do offer a larger flat sum in a competitive situation where there's multiple buyers who are interested in the same property. A stronger earnest money deposit can meaningfully strengthen your offer without it changing your total purchase price at all. Sellers want assurances that you're not going to back out, and a larger deposit provides them that assurance. Now, in new construction, builders often require a higher fixed deposit, maybe anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000, in some cases more, depending on the community and the price point. So who holds the money? Well, this is where Georgia is a little bit different from some of the other states. In Georgia, the earnest money is typically held by one of three parties. You've got the listing broker, the buyer's broker, or the closing attorney. See, Georgia is an attorney closing state, which basically means we've got licensed attorneys who handle every real estate closing. So as a result, there's a growing trend in the market here in Georgia towards simply having the earnest money being held by the closing attorney. They are, after all, seen as the most neutral third party. They don't have a dog in the fight from the buyer side or the seller side. In the greater Atlanta area and up here in Northwest Georgia, all three arrangements are fairly commonly used. Your purchase contract will specify exactly who holds the funds. Whichever party holds the funds, Georgia law does require that the earnest money is held in a dedicated trust account. It's completely separated from the holding party operating funds. So whether it's the listing broker, the buyer's broker, or the closing attorney, whoever's holding it, it's not going to be mixed in with their day-to-day operating funds. It's held in a completely separate trust account, and it is strictly regulated by the Georgia Real Estate Commission. Always get a written receipt when you deposit your earnest money every single time. All right, now here's a Georgia-specific feature that surprises almost every buyer who's coming from another state. and even some of the first-time buyers who live here in Georgia. Georgia contracts do include a due diligence period. This is a regulated window of time, typically 7 to 14 days in our market, during which you as the buyer have the right to inspect the home, review the documents, and then decide whether you want to move forward or not. If you terminate the contract during the due diligence period for any reason, your earnest money is generally returned to you. But here's a part that catches some people off guard. Georgia also uses a separate due diligence fee. This is a smaller negotiated amount paid directly to the seller, not into escrow, for the exclusive right to conduct your due diligence period during that window of time. Unlike earnest money, the due diligence fee is typically non-refundable, even if you cancel during the due diligence period. Think of it like this: the due diligence fee pays for your option to walk away. Now, in the Northwest Georgia market, due diligence fees can range from a few $100s to several $1,000s, depending on the price point and how competitive the situation is. So the more competitive, the more people that want that house, the higher the likelihood that there's going to be the due diligence fee, because the seller knows that they've got a strong negotiating point there. Earnest money. Earnest money is protected by the contingencies in your contracts. The most common ones here in Georgia on the residential purchase agreement are the inspection, the financing, and the appraisal contingency. Now, if you back out of the contract during the due diligence period before it expires, your earnest money is typically fully refundable. If you have a financing contingency and your mortgage gets declined, the home appraises below the purchase price, and you have an appraisal contingency, and you're unable to negotiate a resolution with the seller, again, your earnest money is typically refundable. Where buyers can get into trouble is when they back out after the due diligence period has expired without a remaining contingency to protect them. If you simply change your mind after the due diligence window closes, the seller may have the right to keep your earnest money as liquidated damages, because think about it, they took their home off the market, which means that they missed potential buyers seeing their home because you were not able to close the deal. That's going to cost them time and money, and so your earnest money could make up for that. So this is why it's critical for you to use your due diligence period actively. Get your inspection done, review all the documents, get your financing confirmed. All right, now I do have to include this. Real estate wire fraud actively targets earnest money deposits, and it's one of the most common real estate scams in the country right now. Basically, here's how it works. Scammers can hack into the email communications that are involved with real estate transactions. They may send a fraudulent email that appears to come from your agent, your lender, or the closing attorney, and they update the wiring instructions for your earnest money deposit. So you send it off, it goes to the scammer, and in most cases, it's unable to be recovered. So the rule is very simple and non-negotiable. Never wire money based on instructions that you receive by email alone. Always call the recipient, Google them, and get the correct phone number. Don't just trust a phone number that's on an email. Verbally confirm the wiring instructions before you send a single dollar, every single time, no exceptions. So earnest money is one of those things that feels complicated until somebody explains it clearly, and hopefully that's what I was able to do for you in this video. Once you've had it explained to you, it should make total sense. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. Now, if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in Bartow or Cherokee County, Milton, Alpharetta, anywhere in Northwest Georgia, North Atlanta, I would love to sit down with you and talk about this for a free buyer consultation. We'll talk through the full process, what to expect at each stage, and how to write offers that are competitive and protect your money at the same time. Information about how to book one of those consultations is down in the description box below, or you can shoot a text to me up here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. For more real estate content, I produce 1 to 2 videos every week. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next video.